Good morning. Saturday, the 73rd day of this war, and God is still on the move. There's so much good that God's doing in the middle of what you got to remember. Dial it back, man. 70 days ago, everybody said it was hours till Ukraine was lost. A month and a half ago, 2 months ago, they said it was hours till Mariupol was lost, and yet still we're here. A month and a half ago, or a month ago, when they were looking to begin the second part of the offensive, they said Donbass was lost, and yet still here we are. So important. If we are to continue to move into what God is doing, we have to recognize the enemy always attempts to, through fatigue and through confusion and forgetfulness, to move the chains so that we forget the victories we've had because we're impressed with the victories that haven't come yet. So we're going to celebrate what God has done so we can, with courage, begin to lean into what God wants to do to see this war not simply ended, but Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus fundamentally liberated from this former Soviet system, this absolute domination and control, and freed for the gospel. All right, so come on. I'm so glad you guys are joining us. Many of you were with us yesterday when we got to interview Vladimir and Lilia, and wow, it's so good, so good. Some of you mentioned it was a little chunky because of translation. Fortunately, no way around that. But I really was grateful that you guys got to see the real heroes there. And so if you go to ariselife.org/Ukraine, you can actually find their Facebook pages and the Facebook page of the church. And so they're posting videos and photos every day, so you can see a little of what's going on. But all right, let's get into the good stuff. Listen, in Kharkov, the only place there's a real counteroffensive by the Ukrainian, it's big. They're pushing hard. They took 6 different settlements and a large swath of territory, but particularly there were staging stations there for the Russian army that they took. They're pushing harder and harder towards this critical supply route to Izium. If they break through there, the encirclement of Izium is huge. And in Izium, they've had anywhere upwards of 30 battalions, a third at times of their entire force coming in Izium. Again, they've been positioned for the goal of taking or moving all the way across to Dnipro from Izium to do a massive encirclement, and every step of the way they've been thwarted. They can't make the final last 5 kilometers to actually cut off the Slavyansk train line that's coming from Zaporozhye. So this is, guys, the Ukrainian army continues to hold and hold fast, but they're actually making inroads. Continue to pray for that, for them to break off that supply chain and encircle Izium. In Lugansk, the Russians are advancing. Slowly, but when I say slowly, I mean by meters by meters. They are not making any real progress. They're still attempting to encircle Severodonetsk, but really they're not making any real progress. The Ukrainian forces are entrenched. They're holding strong. It's huge. Many of you guys remember 2 days ago, there was massive shelling on the Kryvyi Rih front. That's usually an indication that the Russians are attempting a ground invasion the next day, right? They soften artillery targets and then move in. Well, again, time and time again, you and I have prayed very specifically for areas that were under artillery fire, and then the Russians are unable to, either because they have been unable to hit the artillery meaningfully, or because they simply don't have the morale or the logistics to actually do the ground invasion. And this has been awesome. This has been awesome. Praise God. One of the things that happened yesterday, in Kherson, the Ukrainians struck a Russian airbase and took out a bunch of helicopters. Come on. We've continued to pray for this, that there would be logistics breakdowns, but also that military equipment would be destroyed on the ground. Again, why is this important? Bloodless resolution. Without weapons, without fuel, without food, the Russians can't fight and people don't die. This is huge. You guys remember, so we're like day 3 or 4 with the whole area around Snake Island. You guys remember the small island that was where the war began. Is a few days ago they took out the radar system. I think it was 4 days ago. Took out 2 Raptor class boats. Then yesterday they took out they hit with a Neptune missile the guided missile cruiser Admiral Makarov, which was, as we understand it, it was the temporary flagship of the Black Sea Fleet since Moskva sank, but also provided critical aircraft and anti-missile protection for that section of the Black Sea. It got taken out. It was set on fire. We don't have any updates on them, whether there were 180 soldiers on board. They were rapidly trying to evacuate them. But as evidenced by the fact that they have now lost any anti-aircraft capability or trying to reestablish it, we just got drone footage from 2 hours ago where the Ukrainians took out a amphibious landing craft that they were trying to offload anti-aircraft missiles onto Snake Island. And this is wonderful. Here's why. Snake Island is a useless rock in the sea. But all of this firepower is being used on places where there really aren't any people, and it's being used to take out massive amounts of military hardware. Again, bloodless resolution, guys. We have to double down on God's heart that He does not desire to see any perish. Guys, we cannot, in the middle of this rage and anger, desire the death of any. God does not desire that any should perish, but He has supernatural solutions for in these places. Come on. Mykolaiv. The Ukrainian military destroyed a Russian base at Ivano-Kipny village. So even on every front, they are facing defeat. This is amazing. And in Mariupol, 50 people got out, even though the Russians were firing on these vehicles. Now, stay with me. Some of the confusion, why would Russia open evacuation routes and then close them down? I've said this before. It's evidence of fundamental division at every level in the Russian apparatus. So the bureaucrats are the ones who are organizing these evacuation routes. They're still trying to negotiate something. They pushed the default on that was supposed to be May 4th back, but now they're facing a potential default on May 27th. Again, they're aware of the fact that they've dodged a bullet, but the bullet's still coming. And so, second thing is, so they are the ones who negotiate these evacuation routes. On the ground, you have military types. You have people who want to take all of Ukraine, but the actual soldiers are fighting, right? And they're risking their lives. And we have a problem in Mariupol because Mariupol is not a military target. What do I mean by that? They had it encircled, they had it contained, it was no longer truly a danger. And so Putin said, don't let anybody out. And that was a genius thing. Again, all the generals, Girkin, everybody said that's the best idea. Everybody but Kadyrov, the Chechen warlord. And so that's why. Don't waste soldiers' lives. But soldiers are willing to risk and for a militarily meaningful goal. Well, what's happened is it has become absolutely impossible for Russia to achieve any goals anywhere in these days, and so Putin must have some sort of victory for May 9th, and so now they have to have some fake victory in Mariupol. Do you understand what happens to the morale of soldiers when they realize their brothers in arms are being thrown away for a parade? This is fun. This is. You wouldn't think the Russian morale could go any lower. It is. And so this is why you watch it after their guys have given their lives to try to break into Azovstal, and then the very thing they're trying to reach the negotiators are giving away. And so that's why you'll see this frustration where they fire on evacuees. Continue to pray for the protection of the evacuees. I don't understand the numbers. We've seen 500, 200, and then another 50, so 550, and they still say there's 200 or more civilians trapped in Azovstal, and anywhere between 2,000 active Ukrainian fighters and 500 wounded within Azovstal, but they're holding fast. I've said this before, the Ukrainians have had a month and a half to make this thing a dungeon of traps, and they know the place like the back of their hands. The Russians are flying in blind, and it's not going to be pretty. I expect to see in coming days increasing acts of Russian sabotage. One of the huge praises is we're seeing more and more, I mentioned this yesterday, that there are active elements in Russia that are sabotaging war efforts. 6 different recruitment offices have been firebombed, there's so much going on, and the reality is most of the power has left Russia, right? They've gone with the army, and so there's nobody there to hunt down these people, and so they're firebombing various military facilities. One of the things is when you're actually working for a military facility, you need a sense that you're doing this for the common good, and when you start to realize the missiles you're building are being used to kill women and children, you can't handle it, and we're seeing this fundamental breakdown. We've been praying for this. Continue to pray, continue to believe that God is going to do something. Yeah, Lilia, our friend, is saying, please join them in a fast and pray for the freedom of Azov and all of the people within. Pray for them. Pray. They're particularly setting aside tomorrow for fasting and prayer for Azovstal, for the people in Mariupol. Why tomorrow? So today's the 7th, tomorrow's the 8th, May 9th is Monday. And so Russia has to have something. I mean, Putin does, by May 9th, and at all costs. And so you're going to see some crazy random military actions in this coming time, and so pray that in the craziness, they step out, they make themselves vulnerable, they commit just militarily stupid ideas, but at the same time that there's limited loss of life and massive loss of machinery and ability to fight. Another thing that's been huge is Germany has finally committed those 7, what are they called? PZH, Panzerhaubitze 2000, and they've already committed to train the Ukrainian soldiers. One of the big things, though, is 10% of those M777 howitzers coming from the U.S. that with some of the most advanced, amazing, they're titanium, they're super light, super strong, super long-lasting howitzers. 10% are already in the field being used with devastating effect. Why is it so important? The titanium means they can be quickly set up and moved, and they can be moved to another area, and they can hit. An extreme example of that is Sweden has given their long distance truck mounted howitzers called Archers. These are amazing because what they can do is they can hit targets 40 to 60 kilometers away. So what it means is they can go boom, 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 and they can break everything down and be gone. Because most of the time what happens is when you shoot a howitzer, it reveals your position to the enemy and the enemy targets you. Well, with those Archers, they can shoot and be gone before their rockets have even, their shells have ever hit the target. And so there's so many different ways that Ukraine continues to be supported militarily in powerful ways. And the U.S. has also just literally either today or last night committed $150 million worth of military aid, including 25,000 rounds of the 155 millimeter shells that those M77s and any NATO gun uses, as well as counter-artillery radars, jamming equipment, field equipment, and spare parts. So one of the really incredible things that's happened is Ukraine has put together this incredible combination of this equipment that makes it that if Russians, so right now we're in what's called an artillery war. What it means is, shooting at one another and destroying positions before you can move forward. Well, what happened right now is Russia has 20-1. He has 20 times as many artillery pieces as the Ukrainians, but the Ukrainians are about 20 times as good. So in some ways, Russia's been able to push forward just by mass shelling, but maybe the Ukrainians are 10 times as good. And so, but with this new equipment, what they can do, and with the combination of drones, they have a whole series of drones that can, things like the switchblades that can just take things out silently. They've got the Ghost Recon that's able to get in there and see, but also hit. But they're able to target field equipment that the Russians can't stop these drones. Then the Ukrainians can hit with a single shell, bomb the living daylights out of them. If the Russians but here's the deal, is the artillery pieces that the Ukrainians now have with the M777, the PZH 2000, what those are able to do is hit from, and the Archer are able to hit from so far away that the Russians can't hit them back. So the Russians have to move forward, and while they're doing that, they can be hit by the drones, they can be taken out, or they can try to hit them with airplanes. But the problem is right now, especially with the UK Starstreak anti-aircraft system, what they're able to do is, which Russia cannot stop, is if they attempt to take out these new howitzers, these long-distance howitzers with airplanes, they get taken out of the sky, just like that. So either way, the Russians lose. And this is nuts. This, as soon as all of this equipment is in place, Russia is toast, except for one possibility, which is mass conscription. We've been talking about this. I hate to say it, but I appreciate one Russian commentator's perspective. The way he put it was this. He said, up to this point, there is literally no good way that there's no reason that Russia would do conscription. I mean, they have to do it because they literally need another 200,000 to 300,000 soldiers, bodies, just to throw at the Ukrainians to be able to move forward. But they need to do conscription, they need to do mobilization, they need to declare it a war, but at the same time, doing so is so negative for Russia. One, you're arming 200,000 to 300,000 people who don't want to fight, right? Who literally don't want to go. And you're giving them guns. Again, nobody's allowed to have guns, right, in Russia. You're giving them guns. You're arming a group of people that don't want to fight. See a problem? A second thing is there's nobody there to train them. There's no, military structure simply can't handle the influx of 200,000 to 300,000 people to train them meaningfully and to get them going. And there's already a breakdown in so much of the military supply structure. So there's really no good end to this. But on top of this, the people don't want to go at whole, let alone the kids who are actually being sent. They don't want to send their kids. They don't want to go. And this would be such a violation of trust. But about 2 days ago, Peskov, Vladimir Putin's mouthpiece, has stated that everybody's talking about conscription. We talked about that. That's good. They're getting it out. But he said it's not going to happen. That's complete trash. That's not going to happen. But the one thing we know about Peskov is Peskov lies. So if Peskov says it wouldn't, it means it's going to happen. Well, what's it going to look like? It's probably going to look like them trying to either do silent conscription, like literally just sweeping people off the street, but you're not going to end up with any quality. You're not going to end up with people. Or literally, they're already calling reservists back into the conscription offices, the recruiting offices, to register them, get them ready. They're probably going to do something. Pray that it rattles, especially on May 9th, that Putin's going to declare something. Maybe he's going to declare that we are now at a war for Russia's survival against NATO. Whatever it is, he's going to do something, and he's going to try to get the people behind him. Pray that it fundamentally breaks Russian society down the middle and reveals this truth, that nobody wants to be a part of this, that it's just sending their children to their death. Pray the word continues to get out of what's actually happening in Ukraine little bit by little bit. I mentioned there's a massive divide between the generations. Under 30, they know what's going on and they're freaked out, and their friends are going to be sent. It's kind of very similar to what happened in Vietnam War, where don't trust anybody over 29, over 30. It's the same thing. Those over 30, they're believing the TV, they're believing what's going on, and so pray though that what is understood by the younger generation reaches the older generation. Come on. Another great thing is China. China, part of the amazing thing is China has not backed Russia, and mainly because they're trying to find a win, but part of it too is their own banking system, and now their technology companies are it's too dangerous financially for them to participate with Russia, and they're backing out. Like Lenovo and Xiaomi are two of the biggest ones. They've pulled out of Russia, but they're not making a big deal out of it. But this is good because it's hampering China's ability to support them, even as they're trying to find ways to support them. Interestingly enough, India, has been so so pro-Russia. One of the things that's come out is they've just ordered 700,000 tons of oil from late May, from Russia at steeply discounted prices. They're taking advantage of the situation, but at the same token, they had a big usual annual international relations conference hosted by their defense department. And every year, Russians have been there since 2017. And Lavrov, the foreign minister, was there last year. Last time it was in public, 2020. Well, this is the first time physically, and there were supposed to be 3 major Russians there. Actually, it looks like all were disinvited. That's the first time we've seen India make any kind of a recognition of it is too politically expensive to back Russia. Continue to pray that India will turn its back on Russia. All right. One of the things, too, we mentioned is that Putin has declared, it looks like he's going to do some sort of massive spectacle of PR in Mariupol, like as if they're trying to get people to act like, I don't know, they'll probably ship in some Russians. They're going to do something to try to get people to be cheering crowds for the liberators. They're trying to clean up Mariupol. They're trying to make it, I know, it's hard to believe that what they've done, control the camera angles so that it can look like they have delivered Mariupol. So one of the things they're doing is right in the middle of the city is the Dramatichny, the dramatic theater. You guys remember 1,000+ people were hiding in the basement when it got bombed. Well, the numbers are now out. It looks like 600 of them died. Miraculously, 400 of them survived, considering the whole thing was completely destroyed. But they are working. We got some satellite imagery from this morning where they are working hardcore to clean up that. And so, guys, pray that whatever they're doing, that the lies will be revealed, that they fundamentally can't pull this off in a way that the Russian people will buy. A bit of stagecraft. All right, man. Again, we are praying for Mariupol. We're praying for them to stand. We're praying for them to stand strong against every attack. We're praying for them to have, somehow, some way to get the wounded and the civilians and the children out. Praying for wisdom and insight for the Ukrainians, a supernatural multiplication of food, water, resources, military equipment, that they would be able to hold fast, and that Russia would be fundamentally thwarted. Again, at this point, if they can hold through May 9th, it's possible that other alternatives are possible. All right, another thing, pray for Odessa. Russia is trying again. They're bombing the living daylights out of that corridor that's to the southwest of Odessa. It looks like they really want to try to put in an amphibious assault on that side. Pray. Every time we've prayed, it hasn't happened, right? We've been praying for 70 days against an amphibious assault in the Odessa region, and every single time they try, it fails. Continue to pray. That is not a good scenario. If that happens, that would change the war fundamentally. Pray also, again, in Lugansk, they're attempting to encircle Severodonetsk. Pray they continue to hold, because again, as long as they hold that, a whole region is protected, but also it ties up so much military hardware and effort. Also pray for the UN, man. So out of the meeting they had on Thursday and the Friday, they came out with this statement, basically voicing strong support, and expressing deep concern regarding the maintenance of peace and security of Ukraine. Everybody, including Russia, signed off on this. Why? Because it doesn't mention Russia, it doesn't mention invasion, and it doesn't mention war. Guys, we've been praying that the fundamental bankruptcy, moral bankruptcy of the UN at its highest levels, especially with India and China and Russia and Mexico and Brazil on the Security Council, fundamentally either passively or actively supporting Russia, man, pray that this is just reveals to the rest of the General Assembly, as has happened again and again. They would recognize that the bankruptcy of the UN, and there would be fundamental shift and change as a result that will result in undermining any attempts by China or India or Russia to change the conversation, but also to continue to unite people in supporting Ukraine. A final thing I really want to highlight is mines. Russia, many of you guys remember in Cambodia, they're still digging up mines in Cambodia and Vietnam, years and years after, still in Afghanistan, Iraq. The way the Ukrainian forces put it, for every day of occupation or war, there's been a month needed to demine the area. And so, over half of the Ukraine territory needs this. This is about 300,000 square kilometers, needs to be surveyed and demined before the people can safely come back. And so every day, an average of 2,000 to 6,000 explosive items are seized and rendered harmless in the country. So with spring coming, overgrown with grass, and in a week, explosive devices they won't be visible then. And so, right, because you can see them when they've been dug in. And so a few months later, due to rains, they sink underground to a depth of 3 to 5 to 7 centimeters, and they're no longer visible at all, but they're no longer working. Pray for wisdom, understanding to get those mines out right now, to get them out, to protect people in the process. Every day, people are dying from these mines, and praying for deliverance there. And the final piece is pray that we as the West continue to keep our eyes focused on what's happening, that the horrors of what Russia's doing under occupation, the deportations, the forced conscription, the rapes, the murders, the abuses would be revealed to the world, that they would understand. I've been really shocked that they have yet to make this strong correlation in public media that what happened in Bucha, what happened in Irpin, what happened in Borodyanka, what's happened throughout those areas is happening now in occupied territories. Is happening now. Please pray. We've got to rip the veil open, that the world would see that that just trying to get peace at any cost sacrifices hundreds of thousands, millions of Ukrainians' lives in the process, let alone Russians. And so, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're praying for those, but that's not enough, right? What are we praying? We're praying for the church of God to arise in Ukraine, for the gospel to go out, for Ukrainian soldiers are crying out to God like never before. Russian soldiers are crying out to God that they would be met, that they would meet their Philip on the road, with the Ethiopian eunuch who can explain the gospel to them. They would meet people who give them the gospel, heal their hearts, deliver them, give them grace, heal their bodies. That there would be, the church would be on the front lines, not running the other direction, but on the front lines, loving, caring. That's why we're supporting Vladimir and Lilia and the Church Благовест in what they are doing exactly that. Pray for them. Pray for their strength, their courage, their energy, for the unity of their team, for courage, for hope, for wisdom of where to go and when not, where not to go, right? How to get into occupied territories, how to get out, where things are needed, where supplies are available. and for resources to back them up. Thank you so much. So many of you have given, especially over the last couple of days. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, I mentioned we accidentally gave more money than we had. It's a good problem to have. But what I want to say is that we want to that your gifts. So you guys have gotten us back into the black. Thank you. But we want to keep going. Listen, time is of the essence. This is the time. So many of you have asked, yes, Arise Life, it's a church, it's a 501c3 registered organization with the IRS. It is tax deductible. You will receive a receipt in in January. So if that's of interest, there you go. But if you're interested in giving, ariselife.org/help-Ukraine, there's a little green button, click there, takes you to a secure site, ariselife.churchcenter.com. You can give there. But listen, we love for you guys to be a part of what God's doing. Again, watch the video with Lilia and Vladimir. We're super excited about what God is doing. Also, as always, I don't get a chance to do all these. If you're interested, go to ariselife.org/Ukraine. You can, so many of you read those every day, print them out. You scroll to the bottom, right click on any of those links for the day, save it as a PDF and print it out. But finally, maybe we took you to heaven with hope, and now with our prayer requests taking you to hell again. He is here. One of our favorite lines from the Orthodox Church is, Jesus, on his death on the cross, he entered hell and death and filled it with himself. Listen, David said, even if I make my bed in hell, there you are. And so, guys, I want to pray right now that you would experience God's grace, even if you be in hell right now, even if you are in fear and torment and confusion. God is here right now, and I bless you to experience his love and life and joy and peace like never before. That shackles that have held you would break off, and that his peace would take hold of your heart right now. In his name, amen. Guys, we got an amazing team, and there's incredible team of people who would love to pray for you. If you need prayer, simply say need prayer, and they love to come alongside you and pray for you. Oh man, some of you may have seen Lilia, our friend, said they're doing exactly what they have to do. They just feel compelled by the gospel to do what they're called to do, and so we're doing what we have to do to stand with them. But again, if you need prayer, just simply say need prayer, and they love to come alongside you and pray for you. Our team, I know I saw Scott and Sabrina Turner, Gary Phillips, Suzanne Roberts, and so many others. If you're interested in prayer, just say need prayer. But also, if you'd like to be part of one of our mentorship groups, just say men's group, as a man, or a women's group, and our team will come to you. They'll give you the details. The women's, it's Jill Hawes and Mariana Sikowski. For men, it's Gary Phillips. And so exciting about what God's doing in those groups. But also, we'd love to hear from you. What is God's doing in your heart as a result of what's happening through prayer in Ukraine? We'd love to see your testimonies either here, or you can email us at info@ariselife.org. And finally, tomorrow, as usual, on Sunday, we'll have our services at 10 o'clock Eastern Time or New York time, and we'd love for you to join us online. So grateful for so many of you who are joining on a regular basis, and the testimonies we're hearing as God's touching your heart. We'll be going after 1 Corinthians chapter 2 if you're interested. But we love you all. Have an incredible Saturday, full of his love and full of his life, full of hope. Take care.